making notes while reading. When you read the research article, not only that you need to comprehend the content, you will have to read the article critically, asking questions while you read, seeking for answers, organizing the ideas, and so on so forth. Sometimes it is very difficult for us to memorize everything that we have read, unless we start making notes. Also, sometimes the information is written in the text, which their sequence, relationships, as well as their correlations is difficult to imagine. Therefore, you will find yourself doing some sketches to reorganize the thoughts for better imaginations in terms of their relationships. You are always encouraged to make notes while you are reading, which can be made on papers or directly make some notes on the PDF files and save it as the soft copy. The purpose of you taking the notes while reading is to highlight important informations for later use. This includes the definitions, explanations, and concepts. Sometimes you would like to write down some questions of criticism or even inquiries, or note down your opinions on certain arguments, which may be referred in the future. It is also a good practice for you to summarize the papers in a few sentences, describing the core message or the contributions of the authors to the field of the study. The purpose of making these notes is to avoid yourself from forgetting the main points, for quick references, in case that you need to reread it after a period of time. Your ultimate goal here is making notes to encourage yourself to comprehend and helping yourself to save your time searching for the relevant information the next time you need to come back to the respective paper, as you will find yourself later that you can recall there are certain important points where you have read it somewhere and you will need to go back and search for the respective papers for more details or for the purpose of citing the respective authors. Nevertheless, thorough reading is still required when there are new ideas or when there are existing ideas implemented through experiment or in a new applications, or when there are different existing ideas that were brought together under a novel framework. That means you are looking into the paper that you have read in a new perspective, which you never thought of during your first reading. Personally, I find making notes during reading is useful, especially for the criticism and the inquiry that I post on the respective papers. I find myself to have critical comments on the papers only when I have better comprehensions of the content of the papers. As I understand more, there will be some questions, criticism, comments, or different opinions and ideas that pop up of my mind, and it is good for you to take the notes down either on the paper or in a separated files. This is because the next time when you come back to that particular paper, you may not have the patience or the luxury of time for you to fully digest and read words by words for the papers. Therefore, quite often you will find yourself looking for this kind of comment and criticism, and sometimes you realize yourself quite amazed. How did you come up with this kind of comment? How did you come about to be able to give such a critical opinions previously? Of course, we know that the reason being is you spend more time reading the papers previously However, what you are doing now is trying to search for the respective information or trying to recall something. That's the reason the quality of the comments that you have wrote on the papers, it will be better than that you are now. Other than that, engineering articles are filled with facts and figures as well as the specifications. There will be a lot of numbers. Sometimes, even different researchers are doing the similar thing using the similar type of materials. The properties or the specifications may vary. This is particularly obvious when the attention is put onto the materials being used in some experiments. And you know that due to different properties and specifications of the material, the outcomes of the experiment will be different. It is quite difficult for us to memorize all this number. You may create some tables to help you to make comparison and to summarize the respective properties and specifications of the material. It can be presented in this manner, where there is a list of the property, the papers that give the respective information, and the values given are filled within the columns. This gives you an idea the variations in terms of the properties of the material being used by different authors under different circumstances. Sometimes you may want to use some statistical measures to represent the result, such as indicating the minimum, maximum value, the mean, or the standard deviations, depending on your needs. Here is another example how you can make the notes regarding the research finding. You may indicate the source of the references, giving a brief description of the topic being studied, concisely outline the findings of the respective papers, and maybe put some remarks for that particular reference. The remarks can be the notes that you made yourself, your comments, the questions of criticism, limitations, and etc. Sometimes you may want to observe the scope covered by different references. You may do it in this manner. Clearly indicate the source of the reference. Give a short description regarding the topic studied. Outline the scopes. And then do some matching between the references and the scope studied. Of course, there are many more other ways to make notes, organize the informations, and it is very much dependent on the information given as well as the purpose of making the notes. The whole idea here is you are trying to make parallel comparison among different publications, provide you ideas where you can find the respective references, giving yourself a quick understanding regarding the focus of the respective papers, and then provide you a summary of the information that you are looking for at the later stage of conducting your research. Also, you can create some mind map for you to organize your talks for better comprehensions and a bigger pictures of the contents that you are going to study. This is an example of the figures that you can create to provide you sufficient information as well as their interrelationships, their hierarchy, as well as the structures of the content. Different persons will construct the mind map or the diagram differently. There is no standard ways for you to construct those, but the purpose is clear. It is for you to gain a better understanding particularly the interrelationship of the components. This is another example how you can make notes on the development of a theoretical approach. There is a list of the theories, the respective authors, and the source of the publication, and probably some descriptions regarding their development or unique characteristics, so that you can distinguish different theories and principles. Some may want to note down the significant governing parameters catered by the respective theories. Whichever it is, there must be a purpose for that. A similar kind of table can be developed for the equation models addressing the same or similar problem. The working principles behind those equation models, as well as their governing factors, may vary each other, and most of the time the variations may be quite small. Making the parallel comparison, you should be able to quickly identify the differences between different mathematical models.